Okay, everyone's excited about Deep Seek, especially me, because Deep Seek is an AI model you can download locally. And if you can download it locally, you can really have some fun with it, which I'm about to demonstrate for you. Okay, job number one is using Llama. We're going to go ahead and pull the Deep Seek image, and it's a pretty hefty download, but we will pull it, and it's about 4.7 gigabytes, at least the model that I downloaded. Now, after you pull it, you can go ahead and run it with Llama very easily. And then you have a nice little AI chatbot in the command line. And if you've never had an AI chatbot in the command line, it's very user-friendly compared to your typical command line. You can just ask it plain text questions instead of entering in arcane commands. Okay, now even in the command line, you can see one of the features of Seek that makes it somewhat unique is it shows you its chain of thought, its COT, in real time. You can see the think tags here when I ask it to explain long division. It gives you its entire reasoning chain. And most AI models, they do have a reasoning chain, of course, but they usually don't show you this. This is one of the transparency and reasoning features that DeepSeek provides. One of the first tests that I give to an AI chatbot to see how cool it is I like to ask it about football. So I like to see if it will predict, for example, who's going to win the Super Bowl. Some AI chatbots will predict this, and some will not predict this. And I have to say, especially when I look at the chain of reasoning for DeepSeek, it is not a cool AI bot. It is very, very nerdy and very neurotic and never gives me a prediction. So, in terms of cool factor, it's very much lacking, but I'm sure it makes up for it in other ways. Now, the command line is great for what it is, and I'm sure all of us love the command line, but it's better to access something like this where you can have rich text. So, for that reason, I used Open Web UI, and this really simulates a Chat GPT style environment where you can select your own options. You can even play with the valves, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. You can keep track of your conversation history over to the left. You can easily switch between models, which is very important as well. It's got some nice quality of life features. You can still see the reasoning chain in real time. You can copy responses very easily. You can use voice dictation. And again, all of this is running locally. You'll see from the web address that I'm at localhost. I am not at the DeepSeek website right now, so I can do all of this offline. Now, for me, one of the big benefits to having these AI models installed locally is that I can actually get them to talk to each other. This is something that I've thought about for a while. If I could do this, if I could get two AI models on one machine, I could actually get them having a conversation with each other and just sit back and watch the results. So this is how I went about doing that. This was version 1.0 of my program, and this is a Python program. And you can see here I have the API endpoints for both models, DeepSeek and Llama. They are both local. Both of these are on my own machine, both using the same port. I built in a debug mechanism and I hard coded a prompt where Meta AI would start the conversation. And the entire thing essentially revolves around passing this JSON data to my local models, passing the prompt for them, passing the number of tokens, and the temperature. Now, the temperature controls randomness, and the lower the value, the more deterministic and less random the responses will be. And this is something that I need to adjust again and again. So I've tried in a few different ways to get the timing right with these AI models and make sure they respond to each other at the appropriate times and make sure they don't time out. Now, when I run it in enabled debug mode, you can see the tokens stream in from DeepSeek. Just like its thinking mode, you can see its logical chain, and I just watch the tokens come in one at a time. But the problem was that the thoughts were being transmitted as a response, which did not really lead to a great conversation between Llama and DeepSeek. So in version 1.1, the main thing I focused on was response cleaning, trying to get those think tags out of there. I also changed the prompt to something about football, of course, because that's interesting to everybody. Now, 1.1 was very exciting and very encouraging because I did actually get Llama to respond to DeepSeek and for DeepSeek to respond back. But unfortunately, they got caught in this loop of just echoing each other's responses, so I had to go back in and make some more tweaks. Now, in version 1.2, I made a few changes. First of all, I changed Llama to Meta just because it's more recognizable, and I changed it so that the user could enter in the topic dynamically so I could test a bunch of different types of topics in a row. Okay, 1.2 had some great results. They were both responding, but they're both very academic. They both have really long responses, multifaceted bullet point type responses. So I wanted to make it a little bit more short and snappy, a little bit more of a back and forth conversation. Version 1.3, I made a lot of changes, most notably adding a user interface and color coding the meta and DeepSeek responses, adding a scroll bar so that I can scroll up and down and just follow their conversation more easily. Okay, and here's a look at my user interface with the color-coded conversation. And the first thing I asked them was, what does chicken taste like? Just because I thought it would be funny to hear two artificial intelligence bots talk about the flavor of chicken. And they actually both did respond. So you can see they have a back and forth conversation, and eventually they kind of descend into just agreeing with each other with emojis at the end. So I wanted to try to get it to be a little more adversarial than just a constant string of enthusiastic agreement. So I added in an adversarial mode where I specifically asked them to critique the responses of each other. And I started off by asking them, are tomatoes a vegetable or a fruit, which is very controversial topic among my children especially. And you can see the responses. They do actually go back and forth and debate each other. They counter each other. They offer critiques. Now, the critiques do get a bit repetitive and they are a little bit dry and academic, but this is where I am now with this AI conversation forum program. I'm going to keep tweaking the temperature, the tokens, some of the valves that are offered with these models. But again, this is all running locally on your computer. It takes quite a bit of computing resources, so it takes a while to actually generate this conversation I'm looking at right now, about 20 minutes. But the more powerful your computer, the easier it is to generate.